up, you guys? It's 2Bricks, and I just wanted to show you the latest update to my Serenity. It's been keeping me busy all week because this is a really hefty model and it has a lot of really tricky, interesting engineering challenges and components to it. So I just thought I would stop before the week is completely over and give you guys a look at how it's all coming. And a lot has been done, so I'm really excited to dive in and show it to you guys. So yeah, let's just get right in there and see what's up. Alright guys, so first thing, I made a couple of adjustments to the whole kind of face of it and the cockpit section in general. So I just wanted to give you guys a quick look at what I had done. First of all, I wasn't really happy with the lever pieces that I had chosen to represent these kind of spike details. And so I ended up going with these modified rounded bar pieces, which I think work out way better. I think they are much closer to the overall look and size. They're not too thin and they're not too long. It just kind of works out perfectly. So then I've also been doing some adjustments to the little kind of side little details in here. Just trying to get those to be a little bit more screen accurate and a little bit more presentable compared to what you actually see in the show and in the movie as well. And then if you take the face off, you can see that I've been doing some work on the inside as well, just a little bit. Cleaning up some of this area in here just to give the part where the front face kind of slots in here, just to give it a little bit of extra clearance so that there's nothing kind of bumping up and stopping that from getting in there. And then just did some work on the consoles as well, where I kind of raised these up, made them dark gray, and I gave each of the pilots their own steering yoke as well. Yeah, so that's, you know, ongoing. I'm kind of coming back and messing with this a little bit every now and then. You know, just in between waiting for inspiration to strike for other parts of the ship. So every kind of different area of Serenity keeps getting kind of touched up and worked on. And so I just like to, you know, wait until there's some substantive progress to point those out to you guys. I did switch out these little kind of sensor I'm not really sure what these are supposed to be, but I was using clips before, and again I'm just substituting for those bars because that fits way better. Yeah, and just, you know, adding little general details, little bits of extra color and stuff like that. So yeah, this is coming along. So that's part one. And the next thing that I worked on was Inara's Shuttle. I did actually a lot of work to this, and the funny thing is I did it almost right after I posted the first video, so I was really annoyed at myself for basically showing off something, and then even as I was editing it, I was like, man, this looks so bad in comparison to what I have now. But anyway, so I changed this a little bit. It's not that drastic. I changed some of the geometry of the face to give it a little bit more depth and roundness on the side, and I wanted it to have a little bit more of a sharp appearance, so I switched out some of the rounded pieces for slopes. So I think that works out a lot better, and then I kind of unified the color scheme with the dark gray down the front and then the light gray coming in the side here. And actually I wound up changing this whole area quite dramatically because there's this kind of intake platform kind of look in here that I did not have present before, and I just felt like it didn't look right without that. So I just wound up changing all of that around, and then I did quite a bit of work on the interior as well. Let me just pop this off to show you guys. So as before, Inara is still in there. Let me take her out so we can see a little bit better. Come on. So I actually wound up kind of changing up her interior quarters a little bit, where I have these sloped cheese wedge pieces in here now that act as kind of a pillow so that it looks more like this is a bed. I added in extra details where I've put this little bottle in the space in between where this little chest of drawers is, and let me just pop out her dress piece so you can see better. So the chest of drawers is now sitting at an angle, and then on the other side of that I used, I have a clip that just puts use of, makes use of the space in this tiny little area back here to have a little light, and then still, you know, we've got the fan and stuff, and then I just switched out this was previously clips on both sides like this, so I just wanted to have a little bit of a different look, like this is a pinned up curtain or something, just to have a bit more variation to that. And then yeah, I feel like that works out really well. I wound up moving the seat for the pilot one stud forward, and then that gave me you know, a little bit of extra room to play back here. So yeah, all in all, I think this is a far superior version to what I had before. And then I also just, I have a little detail in here with the light. I also just wound up changing out the back slightly, where I feel like this is a nicer fit for this back, you know, it's not a door, but for the back section where it all kind of comes together. Yeah, I think that works out really well. So there's Inara Shuttle version 2.0. Okay, so now we'll take a look at the progress on the main body of the ship herself. And I really like the way that the engines wound up turning out. The front design is pretty similar to what I started out with. And then I've just changed up the configuration of the wings slightly so that there's this cutout section that really exists in the ship. And so, you know, that just is able to slot in there. The problem is I'm gonna have to redesign this now, once again, because when you put this in here, there's just a little bit of droop that happens, a little bit of sag, and I just feel like there's a little too much tension with the weight of the engines. And because I moved the center point of where the attachment point is, previously the cog here that holds this in was right up against the edge of the body, moving that away from the center of gravity has just allowed for a lot more kind of sag to happen. So I'm going to be rethinking that once again, but I think the overall look of the engines turned out great. Definitely got the sufficient roundness in there. I have kind of the engine bloom detail back there, the blue glow that comes out of it. There's these couple of little fins that I noticed in the show, but I don't think those translated into the movie version. But I like the way they look, so I wanted to kind of give a little bit of extra flair to the overall just kind of cylindrical design by putting that in there. And then, yeah, the bottom is just a fairly solid structure. There's the red lights on this side and the green lights on the other side, which in the show as well, you can always kind of see that. It sort of mirrors an airplane, you know, airplane signaling lights or whatever. Yeah, and then so these can actually rotate around and sit on the ground nicely like that, and that's actually something that will help when the cargo bay is out. The back section of Serenity, which hasn't been done yet, but will sit on the ground level, and then these engines will be able to support the weight of this whole section, I think, when the cargo bay is not in there. All right, and next up we'll take a look at what I've done with the wings. So I've been adding a little bit, or introducing a little bit more variation with the dark tan, just in different spots, just to give it a little bit more of a feel of patchiness. I switched out the yellow kind of caution tape printed tiles in favor of something a little bit more subtle. The reason for that is that I think you can definitely see that present in the Serenity movie version of the ship, but in the show you don't really have that. I don't think there's actually any kind of design like this. I think it's mainly just plain gray. And I actually like that look a little bit better, so I decided to kind of compromise and still have 3 yellow stripes, or, you know, I'm actually using tan, but just something that's a little bit less of a draw, as you know, those tiles with the design on them are very, very loud, very noisy, you know, color-wise, and I just feel like it really just sucks your eye into this part of the wing, and that's not necessarily where I want people to be looking. I think the engines and the shuttle bay and all that stuff is more interesting. But anyway, so that's the decision that I made for now. I'm still probably going to go back on it, and as I continue to redesign how this is attached, I'm sure that the wings will change yet again. So I have obviously the little kind of Wile E. Coyote style of cutout for the shuttle. You know how Wile E. Coyote would always run through a wall and leave an imprint. So yeah, the shuttle just slots right in there, and it's very snug, and the way that it fits in there is very nice, and I'm happy with how that is coming together so far. And for now, this is just a temporary thing where I have just a little hitch to come up and keep this in place. That's probably going to wind up changing, only because it's not particularly well integrated. It's literally just held on underneath, and it just, yeah, it's not a great, you know, permanent solution, but just for now it holds it in place pretty well. So I'm overall really happy with how this section has turned out. This section back here is basically just filled in for now, but I may end up tapering this or changing this design ever so slightly. But overall for this part, especially for the exterior, I'm really happy with how it looks. The interior has still a little bit of work to be done as far as just filling in all of the little, like there's some gaps, back here and back on this side too. But it's a case of just putting in a piece, putting the shuttle back in, seeing if it fits, seeing if it bumps up against anything. And the shuttle has a pretty complex shape on the inside of here, so just figuring out the exact geometry of what can fit in there has been tricky. But yeah, I'm really happy with the overall kind of look of the cutout. I think that works really well. All right, so the next thing we can take a look at is under here I have created the landing gear housing and the gear itself. And this is 1 foot and there's another one back there. I'll show you guys that in a second. But the landing gear, you just pull it out and then you can rotate it on down like that. And then there's a knee joint. Foot swivels into place. And then you just spread the toes out. And there we go. Landing gear deployed. And it's pretty similar to how it is in the actual ship in the show and in the movie. It's basically just a little kind of chicken foot. And I'm really happy with how it turned out because I have two legs, both on little sliding rails. And I'll just bring this around so I can show you. I have 2 landing gear, both on rails that go kind of side by side and tuck into the interior of this, like so. Same thing again, just pull that out, turn the foot around, spread the toes out, and I think that works really effectively. And it's actually, it works on both sides. I have both done right now, and the way that the shape of it comes together, I think really sells exactly what it's supposed to be. And obviously the gear is way too tiny to actually be able to ever sustain any weight, but the actual one on the ship, to me, also looks like it's too tiny to actually sustain any weight. So that kind of works out. And the fact that the ship can actually stand on the engines kind of helps to sell that as well, I think. So yeah, I think that worked out really well. And then to put it back, you just rotate it back into place and just slides on in there. And just clamp the toes together, push that in. So yeah, I think that works out really, really well. And then before we take a look inside, I just wanted to show you that I'm beginning to kind of figure out what the neck is going to look like. I just have some rough dimensions right now, and in here will be where the crew quarters go. So there'll be one here, one up here, and then there's a walkway that leads you all the way up to the cockpit. So yeah, just the very, very earliest beginning stages of that. And then underneath here, I have it where that little actuator to unhook the cargo bay section. That's just in here, and there's a little kind of trap door for that. Yeah, still not 100% happy with the kind of tolerances for the cargo bay because it's a little bit of a tight fit, and it takes a little bit of jostling to get it to just sit down on top of it perfectly. But we'll see when the additional weight comes in of the head and then the back section. That just might make it easier to, once it's lined up, just let it drop down and the weight will just get it lined up correctly. So we'll see. But I may end up having to do a little bit of retrofitting for that. But yeah, I thought I'd just give you guys a look at the kind of skeletal structure of what it's going to be. The whole thing is like the corridor that leads up to the cockpit. There's these little kind of ladders that drop down, and then the crew can get into their quarters from above. So, there's a walkway above, and then there's quarters below. And then there should be a second corridor down here that where the doors of the quarters open out into a second corridor that leads you down there into the cargo bay. But I'm actually not going to be able to have room to have that in there, I don't think. So it's just going to wind up being the quarters and then the top entrance and the corridor. But the way that that's laid out will enable you to have crew members walk from the cockpit down the corridor, go into their quarters if they want to, or go into the main dining area here through this door, which I'm going to show you guys in a minute. And so I think being able to have all that access and not have literally every single interior space in the ship represented, I think it's fine. As long as they can, you can plausibly imagine the figures getting everywhere they need to get on the ship. So that's that. So let's take a look on the inside at what's been done. So when last I showed you guys this, I was saying that I would like to have this deck laid down the next time that I show it to you. And obviously, I've gone a wee bit further than that. And now we have this whole top section on here with the windows, which actually light can get through those windows. And then, I'm liking the look of the sand blue and the dark tan. I think I'm going to continue that color combo throughout. And then back here, we also have the window that's represented by a perfect TIE fighter window, which is just absolutely beautifully perfect for that particular purpose. And through these, light cannot get through just because of the way that it had to be designed. But I think it's fine if you want to have illumination on the interior, you'll be able to see that through these windows, which is something that on a lot of the shots of the ship in the show and in the movie, you can actually see that too. Like you can almost see the crew walking around inside of this interior space. So you'll be able to kind of replicate that here. So if we take this off, you can see what's been done inside. And I have essentially the whole kind of central kitchen and dining area fleshed out. So there's a table, which I can actually pull out and show you guys. And the table has all kinds of goodies on it, which are props that are taken from screenshots that I've seen of the actual show and movie, where there's this kind of little candle illumination thing right here, and then there's a little box of maybe it could be some tea or it could be some spices or something like that. There's a candle, a little milk jug, some baked goods have been laid out for the crew to dig into, I guess, at their leisure, and someone left their coffee cup. So yeah, that's that. And then we have the individual seating for all of the crew members. The chairs are all mismatched, unique builds, because the crew doesn't have a ton of disposable income, right? So they're picking up stuff as they go. They might, if a chair breaks, they might get to a new planet and just pick one up at the local store. And so you wind up with a lot of mismatched furniture. But I think that really adds to the charm of the whole thing. Mostly, whoops. Let's see if I can just pull one of these out. So yeah, mostly these are just really, really simple builds, and I wanted to be able to just have a person sit on it and not, I don't know, they're not the most fancy of things, but I think just giving each of them their own look helps to kind of call out the individuality of the crew as well, which I really like. And then back here you can see there's this kind of kitchen island sort of floating section where a lot of times they'll have, be extra storage for dishes that they're eating. There'll be utensils. There's a little thing here for some fresh herbs or something like that. Little drawer down here. I have a lot of little drawers kind of spread around throughout this area. And then on the wall here, it's really, really hard to see, but there's this unique pattern where there's kind of like, I don't know if it's wallpaper or if it's painted on, but in the show, a lot of these columns have this kind of flower design where it's red flowers and green kind of stem vines. And so I just put that down this one side, or it's actually on either side of the columns. But I just wanted to have that in there as a little call out to that design, even though it's not replicated everywhere. And then back down in here, we have the kind of lockdown section where if the ship is in trouble, the crew will come and strap themselves into these seats. And I guess it's in a very secure area of the ship, so they're, it's sort of like a mini panic room, I guess, where if things are really going wrong, that's where everybody takes refuge. And I just have all the seats lined up around that little coffee table there. So it's, it's a dual purpose thing. Obviously, it's for emergencies, but it's also used by the crew on a day-to-day basis as like a little lounge area. And then on the other side here, we have this little kitchen preparation area. You could imagine perhaps a little stove back there. I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to wind up putting on these studs in here, but it'll be something. I might do maybe a couple of studs to indicate like like I said, a stovetop cooking surface. Got little drawers in here, which, you know, you can put all kinds of little things in. I haven't gotten to any of that kind of detailing yet. You could imagine this to either be a little tiny, like a pantry thing, or it could be a microwave, or who knows. So yeah, I really want to pack in the details into this section because this is kind of like the heart of the ship, where the cargo bay, a lot of activity happens. This is where a lot of the bonding and, you know, character moments and discussions take place, and there's a lot of good kind of memorable conversations that happen around this table. So I really wanted to sell it and get it to be as accurate as possible. Like, I mean, I try to really faithfully replicate, like there's the rug with the cut off corners that the whole table and chairs sit on, and yeah, just to try to really put in as much of that as possible, and for fans of the show to be able to really identify what they're looking at. And then yeah, this top section is just plates right now, and it just sits in there, pops down in, and just keys in really nicely, and it's very secure. So hopefully, you know, when you guys are moving the ship around later on, my aim is that for this big ring that goes around the back here, that there will be some kind of an ability to have a handle or something like that that can kind of give you a good spot to grab onto, and then maybe you could put a second hand, like, you know, underneath for moving it around. But yeah, we'll see how that winds up going. But I think for now, just the overall kind of interior detailing and how all that stuff is going is making me very happy. So yeah. Oh, and I forgot to mention that, you know, we have the doors on either side, so you can't see, the table's in the way there right now, you can't see through to the other side, but there's a door back there, and there's an identically shaped one here as well, which just barely has clearance for a minifigure to walk through it. So yeah, I think it's all working out pretty well. And lastly, the cargo bay remains mainly unchanged. I do have a little railing in here that I've added, and I did a little bit of shaping to this section of the door, just to mirror what you see on the real ship a little bit more closely. And I think that that works out pretty well. And I've been starting to kind of tighten up some of the paneling detail throughout here, and obviously with this landing gear section added, you know, that adds an extra dimension of bulk to this. But I'm really happy that I was able to add these landing gear portions in here without actually adding too much weight. These are very, very hollow, and the actual legs themselves are pretty light. So yeah, just you can kind of see a little bit better how that works. See how, you know, in there the leg disappears away from you as it's being pulled out the back. So yeah, I think this all works out really, really well. I'm very, very happy with the progress, how it's all going so far. Just now that I'm deploying these, I may as well deploy them. Just wanted to show you guys. And I just like looking at it. I think it looks really good. So yeah, you'll be able to have this with the landing gear attached and pose your figures and pose your mule and all that around here. And I think this is going to be really good. So there you go, you guys. That is all of the progress that I've made so far on Serenity. All right, so there is all the progress this week, you guys. Hopefully by the next video, we're going to have the head actually attached, because the neck will be done, and then that means that there'll be crew quarters for you guys to see as well. And there's going to be a lot of structural stuff to figure out about how all of that goes down. So it'll be really interesting to see how it turns out. I'm interested myself. So I'm going to try to focus on that, and also finalizing the engine attachment design, just so that that's really secure, because seeing this kind of drooping down makes me very sad in my soul. So yeah, we're going to get all that stuff buttoned up, and then I'll be back as soon as I can with a new update. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. All of you guys are super duper awesome for following along the progress. I really love it. So yeah, let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Again, if there's anything super egregious that I've missed out on, or that you just think looks wrong or looks weird, you know, keeping in mind that this is all temp and a lot of stuff is subject to change, I still want to hear what you guys think. So let me know down in the comments. All right, guys, so I'll see you on the next one. Stay shiny, and thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.